When I was a boy, one of my favorite books was Tom Sawyer by Mark Twain. I remember so well some of Tom's adventures, and in particular the time when Tom Sawyer and his little girlfriend, Becky Thatcher, were lost in a dark cave. They were very frightened, and they watched in terror as their last candle burnt down to the bottom and then was completely gone. Mark Twain tells us the horror of utter darkness reigned. Have we ever experienced utter darkness? Mark Twain and I both happen to be from Missouri, which is called the Cave State. I loved to visit those caves, including the one called the Mark Twain Cave, which is where Tom Sawyer and Becky Thatcher were. You enter that cave with a guide, and at one point the guide extinguishes all the light so that you can experience the complete and utter darkness that Tom and Becky did. It is indeed terrifying. Then the guide lights a single candle. It is amazing how much light a small candle gives off in utter darkness. We have candles burning at Mass, but we barely notice, for they don't mean much in a church that is filled with light anyway. But if I celebrate Mass in a pitch-dark room with only the light of a candle to see by, and I have done that, I am amazed how well I can see by the light of that candle alone. It is only in darkness that we can see a candle's light. I love to look at the stars at night. Unfortunately, in the cities we can't see the stars very well because of all the artificial lights around us. Street lights and house lights and office lights and car lights. We look up at the sky and usually just see some smog and a tiny white dot here and there. But sometimes I go out into the desert, far away from the artificial lights of the city. I like to lie there at night, gaze up at the heavens, and see the millions of stars. It is a marvelous sight. I can see the stars because there is no other light around. It is only in the darkness that we can see the light above us. Jesus came into the world to bring light. He meets a man who has never seen light, and he brings light to his blind eyes. Oh, but the blindness of the eye is not the real tragedy. There is another, deeper blindness that the Christ came to cure. The great English poet Milton was blind, and his enemies mocked him cruelly for it. Milton replied, "I prefer my blindness to yours. Mine has taken from me only the color and surface of things, but has not taken away my mind's contemplation of the true, the good, the everlasting. Your blindness has sunk into your deepest sense, blinding your mind to all these higher things." How many walk in this deeper darkness? How many are not able to see the stars of heaven because they have surrounded themselves with other lights, false lights, artificial lights? Even if they were to look up seeking something higher, they wouldn't see it. Some people are so terrified of the darkness that they turn on these artificial lights. One of these is the light of ego. We fill ourselves with our own radiance. It gives us a little light, it is true, but only enough to enable us to walk around in circles. For others, the artificial light is that reflected off their money. the shimmer of gold is a light, but it is not enough to light the path to higher things. These people cannot see the stars because the glimmer of gold has blinded them. There is another artificial light that Jesus consistently rails against, and that is the false light of religious attitudes that blind people to the truth. The Pharisees of Jesus' time and of every time believed that by scrupulously fulfilling every part of a complex set of laws, reciting a certain number of set prayers, following meticulously every detail of prescribed rituals, they would have the light. Once again, that little light is a light, and it may at times even allow us to raise our eyes to look for something higher, but we never really see it because of the glare of these smaller lights that pass for religion. There is no darkness more fearful than the false light that blocks our vision of the stars above. Most of us are like the people in the big city, surrounded by artificial lights. How much we would love to be able to see something more. As Oscar Wilde puts it, we are all of us in the gutter, but some of us are looking up at the stars. The big sinners were in darkness and knew they were in darkness. That is precisely why they were able to see, to recognize, to embrace the living light, the Christ. The Pharisees, bathed in the artificial light of their own self-righteousness, were incapable of seeing the true light standing right in front of them. If you find yourself in the darkness of fear or pain, guilt or worry, do not fret, for only those in the darkness of the cave can see the candle. Only in the darkest night can we see the stars. Let us extinguish all the false lights blinding us, raise our eyes to heaven, and behold the magnificence of the stars.